Now go home and get your fucking shine box.
Hello and welcome to the Corona Cinema Podcast with me, your host, Leon Waite, and I'm joined just by one person right now, although someone might appear at another time, but it's Ross.
Hello there.
Doing a Tarantino structured podcast, linear thing going on here. Gonna have all the elements of the podcast, just not recorded in that order. So doing the little introduction bullshit thing right now. Then me and Ross gonna do that little game we like to do in this podcast, and then talk about the Suicide Squad, and then the head-to-head I won't be on because scheduling conflicts and whatever. No. So that's gonna be Ross and Mason with Matty up in the mountains doing God knows what. Yeah, they're gonna do the head-to-head. They're gonna record that tomorrow. So it's a bit of a weird one, Ross. No, it's a bit.
It's kind of confusing.
It's all out of sync right now, but gonna persist anyway. But Ross, you've been to the cinema recently?
Yeah, because of this limitless cards at Odeon now. Like, no matter where at like in Brighton or at home, there's an Odeon nearby anyway, so it's good. I went, was it last night or the night before, to watch Old.
I'm gonna watch that this week.
It's okay. You know, M. Night's very hit or miss these days, I think. What else have I watched? Obviously watched Suicide Squad. I feel like I've watched other stuff as well. Most of what's out really. I still need to watch Space Jam.
I watched it.
When the trailers are out, I was excited, but now I'm not. Looking at the reviews, and that's why I put it off for so long as well.
It's a weird one. It's just a weird. It's just, I don't know when the idea of doing a Space Jam sequel became like Warner Brothers' opportunity to just flex all the content they have in their life. I don't know when that was like decided. Okay, this is the one where we're just gonna like show like all the shit that we have in our library. Like I don't know when it evolved to become that situation to where we've got Looney Tunes in Casablanca and Mad Max Fury Road and all this kind of stuff appearing in the Space Jam movie. So yeah, it's a bit of a mess. I'm not gonna lie, like I watched 4 films the other day. I was quite tired. I watched Space Jam was the first one I watched, and I was quite tired. And I knew I had to get to Riders of Justice. That was the last film, new Mads Mikkelsen film. And that was gonna finish at like 12:30, like midnight, as in midnight. So I knew, I don't want to fall asleep for that. So I'm just gonna nap in Space Jam because it's the least valuable of these 4 films. So like, forever we watched the first like maybe half hour, then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna close my eyes. This is when they started recruiting. They had to go find the Looney Tunes in all these different Warner Brothers movies, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna close my eyes. I was like, kind of like half asleep. It did the job. I didn't fall asleep for the other films, so I like closed my eyes a bit, then woke up again when it came to like, the big basketball match at the end. And yeah, it's
wasn't much in between.
It's just a bit of I read the Wikipedia to see what happened. Yeah, there wasn't too much that happened, but yeah, it's just a big mess, but it's kind of a fun mess in some ways.
I suppose it's quite fun to like spot who's in the back, because I've seen that kind of thing. Yeah,
like it's just big and dumb, and I'm not really sure who it's for. Like kids, it's not for adults, and kids don't care about Casablanca and all these other films. They're just here for Looney Tunes, and then I probably prefer Looney Tunes to just being 2D. Not gonna lie, like seeing them in 3D is a bit kind of misses the appeal. So yeah, Space Jam is a weird one. It's just weird that that's in the world right now. I don't know. But
yeah, because it gets rid of like the 3D gets rid of like the nostalgia aspect of it. They look completely different.
Yeah,
I'm gonna swap my chair around because this one's creaky.
That doesn't look a comfortable chair. Not gonna lie.
That one did.
Neither of them look comfortable. You never like a desk chair.
This one's really uncomfortable. It's actually metal. Look, I'm gonna hit this chair right now.
Don't you have a desk chair?
Yeah, at home. I'm in Brighton at the moment.
Yeah, you have a desk chair there, I don't know.
Nah, just these. This one's broken and it's got that in. It's got a little crack in there.
Or just get like a bean bag, a bean bag or something. I don't know.
Well, that I can set a desk with. That's
Yeah, it's really tall beanbag. I don't know.
I'll sit on the chair, put the beanbag on the chair, so I'm really high up.
Yeah, that one. Speaking of chairs, and only this week I figured out how to do the like recline thing on the Odeon Lux chairs. I didn't know
You
how
didn't
to.
realize?
I didn't know how to do it because I see. I thought it was like special cinemas or like special chairs within the cinema. I didn't know it was all the chairs. So I'd see people like sitting with their legs up, and then I'd be like, I never like. I don't know why. I never thought it'd be like.
Aren't the buttons literally like right next to you?
Yeah, the buttons are like where your arm would be. Like if your arm's by your side, the buttons are there. For some reason, I didn't think to interrogate that part of the chair. So I was like, I was like, where's got like the seat number and all that. I was like pressing that, thinking, oh, is it a button? Is it like a? You don't have to touch it. You just hover your hand over it, and it's going to move. Then I tried to like manually lift the chair up from the bottom. It's like that's not working. Then a part of it, I must have nudged the button. This is when I was watching Jungle Cruise. I must have nudged the button so it moved slightly. Then I was trying to figure out, okay, how did that move? The fuck? And then I couldn't get it back down. So it was just kind of half up, half down, quite uncomfortable.
That's
not
annoying,
really.
Yeah.
The chair was just sticking to my legs because it was just like kind of protruding slightly at the bottom. Even after that, I still didn't think to look for the buttons down the side. I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't understand what my thought process was to not think, oh yeah, it'll probably be there. Because I was like, put my hand down the other, like the side of the chair, down the front, both sides. Like, yeah, don't know what's going on. Then the last film was like, okay, I saw a woman on my row had it. It's like, okay, I'm gonna actually have to figure this out now. It's like, okay, yeah. But in that moment it clicked. Okay, it's gonna be right there where my hand is. Just nice and simple, back and forth. So yeah,
it is quite easy.
At the how many times? I think that's the third time I've been to the Odeon Lux. I think
so you got to pay £3 extra to go to Lux, don't you?
No, you don't.
Yeah, on top of the what? Whenever I book it through the app, whenever I book it through the app, if I book the Lux, it's charging me £3 extra.
That must be some other service. That's the Lux is just part of the card.
The fuck? Why am I? Right, let's have words. Do you pay on the app or do you go to the cinema and pay?
I do on the app.
What? Why does it charge me £3 extra then?
There must be some. Well, obviously, like the London, like the West End cinemas, you have to pay extra. But that's the only that's the only exception. And there is
do you pay for that?
What? No. I go Holloway Road, so like not central.
Oh, right.
So it's fine. But yeah, I don't know why you'd be paying £3. That's a bit weird.
That's really annoying. I'm gonna have to look into that.
Shame.
I've only been up twice.
On that note, shall we? I know I was about to say let's play a game, but that's not going to be the next part of this. That's what we're going to do right now. But what will happen on the podcast when it's all assembled in the correct order will be Mason and Ross talking about Slither and Super, which I still haven't watched. The thing I was going to watch it. So we were going to record on Sunday. So I was going to watch them on Sunday. Then we were recording on Monday, so I didn't watch them. And then you said you couldn't record on Monday, and then by that point, there wasn't enough time for me to watch them. And unless it was after 9, but then Mason didn't want to do it after 9, so they watched it. And then it was decided you and Mason record on Tuesday.
But even on Monday, Tuesday tomorrow, and it's just kind of a bit of a mess.
So yeah, I haven't seen any of those films. Maybe I'll watch them, maybe I won't. But they're James Gunn films, and
they're quite good, yeah.
James Gunn. The only films he's done before he became big franchise director. I think
he wrote like Scooby-Doo, yeah.
But yeah, Suicide Squad is the latest of his big franchise efforts, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, here's Mason and Ross.
Okay, so this is really weird for me because me and Leon have done the rest of the podcast and it's the next day now. And now I'm on with Mason. Hello, Mason.
Hello, you all right?
So yeah, this is so weird. I think, as I say, we said earlier, this without Leon, this is the first time we've done it. Where is Leon, actually? I'm sure he told me yesterday, but I can't remember where he is.
I don't know. I feel like he's actually just in London or something. I don't think he's actually doing much.
Oh, great.
I don't know.
All right. So, let's move on to the films then. So this week we had Slither and Super. So, which were James Gunn's first 2 films he directed. So the first one was Slither. Synopsis: a black comedy set in a small town in modern day America with a dash of horror that spoofs 1950 films. and pays tribute to the science fiction genre. Literally says nothing about the film, but sure, that's a weird synopsis. Starring Elizabeth Banks, Michael Rooker, Nathan Fillion, and Tanya Sulnia. Mason, what were your first thoughts about Slither then?
It's a weird one. I feel like you know that it is a film that just nods towards probably like 80s kind of that thriller, that kind of that vibe, and you do understand that. And I think when you look past that, it becomes a bit of a better film. But other than that, it's just a bit. It just feels a bit naff. Like to me, it feels like the American version of like Shaun of the Dead, where like some actors that you're aware of and who you know. It's kind of trying to be a bit funny, but it's also not. And I think that's where it kind of tips away from like that Shaun of the Dead kind of feeling, because it's not trying to be as funny. It is just trying to again just nod at previous stuff. And it's I don't know. It's a weird one. Both of them this week have been a bit weird. How did you think about the film first time around? I'm guessing you've not seen this before.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it before. It was a bitch to try and access as well. So thanks for that, Leon. Yeah, it was really weird to kind of to watch. I wasn't really sure what I was watching. I mean, I enjoyed it. But yeah, as I say, it's a black comedy, but I don't think it was that funny for a comedy, because I was expecting it to be funnier, because when I saw it was a black comedy, I was like, oh, it's kind of the James Gunn vibe that I want. But I mean, I don't think it's too bad, considering this was James Gunn's first film he directed, so it's not too bad in that sense. And I'm kind of getting the introduction to Michael Rooker and stuff as well, who obviously he continues to use throughout the rest of his films. But yeah, I mean, I was expecting a kind of spoofier, funnier film, but it seemed actually kind of serious. It's like it wasn't sure whether it was trying to be like serious or funny, or yeah, it was like a weird mixture. I think James Gunn now, when he makes films with Super, but with like Guardians of the Galaxy and Suicide Squad, he has a much better balance of kind of the comedy and the seriousness. But with this one, I don't think it quite hits the mark. But yeah, so that was Super, and sorry, that was Slither. So now Super. After his wife leaves him, a fry cook emulates a TV superhero and transforms himself into a costume vigilante. Very brief synopsis again, probably a little bit better than the Slither one, but still not great. Starring Rainn Wilson, Elliot Page, and Liv Tyler. So yeah, what were your first thoughts about Super?
It was nice to see Rainn Wilson outside of the office, to be honest. I feel like I've really not seen him in anything. But again, I still feel like he's basically playing someone similar to Dwight. So it's just, it's so weird to kind of separate him from the office. But sits on the fence, I feel like James Gunn, where he's like, am I going to be funny? Am I going to go out and be funny and give you a bit of serious storyline that balances, which I think he gets in like Guardians of the Galaxy. But in this, again, like you said, it's like, I don't know which way to tip. But I found this one probably a bit more accessible than Slither. And I think this is one I could probably just put on and maybe watch with someone else as well. But Slither, I feel like I've been there, done that, and I don't need to watch it again.
Yeah, I agree. Because so Slither's kind of like, I don't know, if it's like 2 a.m. and I stick on the horror channel or like film 4, that will be on there. But this feels more kind of established, and I'm guessing he probably wouldn't be where he was today if it wasn't for this, because he made this kind of 4 years or so before Guardians. So then like Marvel might not have like handpicked him if he didn't make this. But yeah, as you say, it was nice to see Rainn Wilson out of that kind of Dwight role, although he did basically play Dwight again at the same time. But it's what was needed for the role. It was nice to see. And moving on to that anyway, let's talk about the performances. So the first category is performances. Obviously, Super has Rainn Wilson, Liv Tyler, and Elliot Page, and Slither with Michael Rooker, Nathan Fillion, Tanya Sulnia, Elizabeth Banks. So yeah, where are you leaning towards in the performances category?
I think Slither just feels like a bit of a joke to me. Elizabeth Banks, again, because the whole film is just a nod towards stuff that has been before. it's kind of hard to judge their acting, because at the end of the day, it's not very good acting, but in the sense where they're trying to achieve previous works, then it is effective. Like having that whole like kind of like country bumpkin like thing with that like an alien coming down, and the way they all respond is very real, I guess, as to what you'd like cliche like expect. But I think for me, I think the acting, they're allowed a lot more in Super. I think just Rainn Wilson alone, and then Elliot Page as well. I think both of them give quite a good performance, and I think they bounce off each other quite well. Other than that, I don't think there's much else like strong acting wise, and across both of these films, I'd probably say it just lands for both of them really. But it's hard to judge, isn't it? It's just
Yeah, it is really hard to judge because Slither, because it is meant to be like a spoof, they are like kind of being over the top on purpose. So I suppose they achieve that, but I think Super, I'm just leaning towards that because, as you said, Rainn Wilson kind of plays this like Dwight role again, which we all know he's good at, but he does it well in this film as well. Kind of Elliot Page is really good in this. I think she was kind of perfect as like a little crazy sidekick kind of thing. Yeah, having Liv Tyler and Kevin Bacon and stuff just kind of, they're just kind of normal, aren't they? Like there's Michael Rooker and Sean Gunn in this and stuff as well. Yeah, they all kind of just give, they're just kind of in the background, and then Liv Tyler and Kevin Bacon are solid, then Rainn Wilson and Elliot Page are good, whereas Slither, as we said, they're kind of just, they are over the top, but I think it's meant to be like that, but also as an actor, it's not that hard to do that, I guess. So there's more kind of scope for the characters within Super. So yeah, we going for Super for that one within that category.
Yeah, definitely. I think the only good thing as well, I think about watching both of these kind of back to back, is that the kind of, I found who is it? It's not James Gunn. It's his brother.
Sean.
Yeah, the one that's in Super. I found his performance and that group of like thugs like a bit. It was a bit like grinding, because the others weren't trying to be cliche, but they were trying to be just like that typical like kind of stupid like meathead.
Yeah.
But I think when you then watch Slither, you can kind of see what James Gunn is doing in his films, that he wants that kind of like typical cliche feeling within these characters. But I think because you only have like half of it in Super, it feels out of place. But in Slither, it feels like it feels a bit more natural to have that. So I think I think that acting it's definitely got to go to Super.
Super. Okay, so 1-0 to Super on the performances. Next is the story. I think Slither's got a very out there story. It's nothing like kind of anything else. I mean, there's other like body horrors and whatnot that are quite weird. But it's very unique. And I think Super is kind of kick-assy vibe where it's like man trying to be superhero. So yeah, what do you think about the stories then?
I actually think the story is probably better in Slither, because I think in Super, realistically, the whole story is just watching Rainn Wilson want to become a superhero, and the whole thing about his wife is pretty like secondary. And at the end of the day, like when this whole kind of relationship with his wife is, as the viewer, I don't think, because we're not really introduced them even in a good place. She's kind of being a bit of a bitch anyway, and then she just disappears. So I think as the audience, you kind of struggle to sympathize with Rainn Wilson, to be like, I understand why he wants to go on this journey, I understand why he wants to do this, because she's just a bit of a bitch. And it's like, okay, so that kind of feels a bit left out there for me. I think, kind of if you look at Slither instead, because it's trying to be a bit kind of cringe, a bit cliche, I think it's more effective when it comes to story, because you have like the kind of pointless love story with the sheriff and Elizabeth Banks, and it's just like they don't really talk about it, but for some reason it's like, oh, they're childhood lovers, like they should have got together, and then they basically like fall in love by the end, and that works well for me. Like it achieved more of what it was supposed to do. So I think my vote, would be with Slither. I don't know if do you agree? Do you agree, Ross?
Yeah, I think so. I think Super, because it's kind of like a revenge story, but I don't think there's much chemistry going on between Rainn Wilson and Liv Tyler, like anyway. So it's kind of harder to believe what's going on, which kind of makes the story dip a little bit more. And yeah, that affects the story quite a lot. But yeah, with Slither, because it is kind of it's quite original in a way and like weird, that you kind of it makes me lean towards that. Like with you say the policeman and Michael Rooker's wife, that's kind of a relationship you believe in, you want to succeed, and there's more characters in there that you want to believe in, you want them to survive. Whereas Super, like Rainn Wilson's a likable person and whatnot, but I suppose there's not as much depth there with the characters. So like when Elliot Page's character dies, it's not as sad because she doesn't really have much depth to her. Whereas Slither, although it's kind of a spoof horror film, they actually do have a little bit more depth there, even if it's just a little bit. And I think that comes off in the story and affects the story. So yeah, we're both going Slither for this one then.
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite easy to be honest. Only two of us that have voted.
Yeah, let's make it quite easy actually.
If one of us goes the other way, I don't know how we.
I don't know what we're gonna do.
We'll let Leon sort it out in the editing. He can
Yeah,
he can add his own little opinion quickly.
Right. So that's 1-1 now. Super 1, Slither 1. Next is visual style. I'd say Slither, like in black and white, Slither has kind of the darker theme to it, and Super is kind of a more comic booky look. So yeah, what are you thinking with visual style then?
There was a few times, to be honest, in Super where I was a bit annoyed with the visual style. Like when they had a few fight scenes and it come up on my screen like pow, I was like, but you haven't done that consistently, and it feels very random. Like it drew my attention too much. I was like, why the hell was that on there? Like it almost felt like a pop-up was on my screen basically. I think the style is, I think they're quite good in Slither. I think again, like we said, it achieves what it was supposed to with being a bit of a fright film and stuff. And I think for me it was a bit more of a successful style. It kind of it appealed to me a lot more.
Yeah,
my vote is Slither.
Yeah, I think as you're saying, Super kind of it's more inconsistent with its style, whereas Slither, you're kind of you get that kind of small town feeling about Slither, and kind of it's just them, the little police force within that town there, and a lot of it's like pretty much the whole thing's filmed at night as well, which kind of adds to like the darkness of the film and what's going on. And as you said, with Super, there's kind of the powers and stuff, but it's only like it's quite inconsistent with when they use that and stuff. So it doesn't feel as in place as it would. So I think I'll go with Slither as well, purely because it's dark. It's kind of very dingy, and the characters, it kind of adds like a more mysterious element because the characters have no idea what's going on, and you don't really know what's going on. You do because you've seen like a little creature going in his chest and whatnot, but so you kind of and it adds the kind of mysterious element to it when like he's like running around the dark, but that darkness stays consistent throughout the film. Whereas like Super's kind of in the day and night, in an apartment, in his house, in this place, like outside the club or whatever, it's kind of affects it in
it's frantic, isn't it? Like it doesn't know what it wants to be. I feel like at least with Slither it feels a bit more refined, which is weird because like you said, Slither was his first film, wasn't it?
Yeah, his first direct. So so we're going with Slither again.
Yeah, no arguments for
that. Slither's gone up 2-1 then. Jeez. Right, well then let's move to tone. So Slither's like, it says dark comedy. As I said, I don't think it was actually that funny with the like it's more of just kind of a spoof of kind of the old horror films, like body horror and whatnot. Whereas Super, I think it has more of like a light kind of tone to it, and that I think is kind of more consistent, or gets not necessarily consistent, but gets what it's trying to do better. I think with Super. So yeah, do you agree? Or
Yeah, like I said, I think Super's the one I'd rewatch, mainly just because it has got that bit of comedy in it, and it like I said, it kind of flows a bit more naturally, and I think the tone for what it's trying to achieve is definitely more on point. It's like I said, it's just kind of easier to watch, and I think it does achieve its comedy a bit more. I found myself laughing a bit in Slither, but it would just be at stuff that was like a bit childish, like when the girl got battered with the sofa in Slither. I laughed. I was like, I guess that's trying to be funny, but that was like kind of it. But I think in Super, I think I probably find Super funnier because it's Rainn Wilson as well.
yeah,
Just him as a person. It's just funny. Like the way he reacts and kind of responds to people, it kind of adds to it. So I think he helps a lot with the tone, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I think what I didn't like about Super though was there's the scene where Elliot Page's character Libby, she like basically rapes Rainn Wilson's character, and I thought that felt very out of place within the film, because she's just like kind of an excitable kind of. I mean, she's 22 in the film, but she's like very like kiddie in the way she acts. And I felt a little bit uncomfortable watching that, because he's going, no, stop it. But then she carries on anyway, and and then it kind of just brushes off afterwards. That's it. And I think that kind of ruined the tone a little bit for me. But ignoring that scene, the rest of the film is very consistent in kind of the way they act and what's going on. So I think when I consider this, I have to kind of remove that from even as like a scene within the film, because it feels so like tonally out of place with the rest of it and with the characters. But yeah, with Slither, I think the tone is consistent, but that's a bit kind of I don't really know how to explain it, because the at the start he's kind of happy, but then it gets kind of darker throughout, but then also it like tries to be a little bit funny, but it's just really dark as well. So I don't think the kind of the nails being fully hit into the wood there. I just made up a saying. But yeah, with Super, I think minus that like rape scene, it's very kind of consistently, witty throughout. Like this is also considered like a black comedy, but this feels more like an actual black comedy and more like they were trying to be funny. And as I say, what James Gunn's so good at is these kind of he's done Guardians and Suicide Squads, which are like one's the best Marvel film, the other one's one of the best DC films. And I think this was kind of his stepping stool to then do the Marvel and DC stuff. And it really shows that this is kind of what he specializes in, these superhero stuff. Because you can tell from this film, he's a comic book nerd. He knows all about like Libby works in the comic book store, and she that's probably just what James Gunn's kind of putting out there. Like that's what's in his mind when he talks about comics and whatnot. And he like this is his first step to making a superhero film, which obviously you can't make Iron Man or Guardians of the Galaxy or Suicide Squad on a 2.5 million budget. So this is kind of like a more grounded down version of probably what he wanted to do, making it like just an average guy. So I think tonally he got this a lot better than Slither.
Unfortunately, you can really see how people say at Marvel and DC would be attracted to wanting to work with him, because it has like all the right components to making such a good film, and it does feel like what he's had in Super does build onto that same kind of story in like Guardians of the Galaxy, because it is like he has now like refined and balanced that comedy with a very serious story, like centered like perfectly well, because that's what he achieves in Guardians 1 and 2. So yeah, these were necessary. They've been interesting to watch. Like, I think I enjoyed them a lot more than I was expecting to, because I looked at them and I was like, I have no idea what to expect.
Hello there.
We got our first guest of the episode.
Need some WD-40 on the door though. Need some WD-40 on the door. Oh, there it is still. Thanks for leaving that. I'll close the door then. Definitely leave that in, yeah.
So for tone, our vote's going with Super, right?
With Super. So that is 2-2. So this is the deciding. We don't usually it's won it by now. One of the films have won it by now. I'm pretty sure. What was it last week? Palm Springs and Ready or Not. Palm Springs got an absolute.
Won every category.
Yeah, but this week it's 2-2 coming up to the last category, which is a unique category, which I think was quite hard to think of this week. We both had the same idea though of like coolest, most creative deaths. I guess it sounds quite macabre and weird, but I think within the films it makes sense. So
it's the only thing you can compare these films with, really. Like
the gore aspect, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
Um,
they're both similar yet different. I think with Slither, you've got like this kind of alien life form, so I think you're allowed to have a lot more like breadth of how you want to take that, and you have the scenes where that woman explodes and gives birth to all the little like slivery things. I think you can achieve a lot more, but because it's supposed to be so kind of realistic and so like, it feels very true that anyone could pretend to be a superhero. And I think the way that Rainn Wilson goes about being a superhero by using a wrench is good. So I think they have to build upon both of those. So it's still hard to compare it to James Gunn's influence, I think, on both films, because the kind of murders and the scenes and the need to be so detailed on certain parts is there.
yeah. And I think what's quite like Super has like 1/6 or 1/7 of the budget that Slither does. And I think in my mind that kind of affects it a lot because he manages to do this kind of this scene with where they're trying to break into the house with like the wrenches and the bombs and like the deaths on that bit. They do all that on the 2.5 million budget, which I think is really impressive actually because it looks good. I thought they would have had I would have thought Slither had a lower budget, to be honest. But yeah, and I think that in my mind kind of makes me lean towards Super in a way because they're quite similar in their kind of macabreness, I guess. But as you say, there's also the fact that because they are aliens in Slither, they kind of get more scope on being creative with how they kill them and stuff. Like where they first see the girl and then she's just like blown up into ball and just like explodes, or how they kill my Grant at the end with where they like fill him up with propane gas and just shoot him and he blows up and that kind of thing. It's cool how they do that, but with Super I think there's a lot of kind of more creative ways they do it. Like as I say, when they're breaking into the house and they're blowing up people. Like one of the main characters, Elliot Page gets their head blown off, that kind of thing. So this is actually quite a hard one to know what to pick. I think I'm leaning towards Super. What are you leaning towards?
Yeah, I think, like you said, because Super has a lower budget, it has to be more creative and it has to use that budget where it needs to. And most of that budget probably went on and stuff. But it doesn't feel that low budget, I don't think, when it comes to those scenes. I think the film in general does feel low budget, but when it comes to those scenes, I don't feel like they've tried to spare any money. I feel like it has, it's perfectly fine for me. I think those scenes, and like you said, like there wasn't any of the explosions where I thought a bit cheap. That looked a bit bad for the time. I can see why Slither would have a much higher budget because even just one of those things moving by itself must cost a fucking ton.
Yeah,
Not all of them. So I guess when it comes to gore, I think because it feels just a bit more real as well. Super, it's like a bit more relatable. Like I feel like I could really feel the pain when you just smash someone like with a wrench and stuff. Yeah. And I don't know, like the gore in Someone having two films was a film called Super Slither.
yeah, it's very confusing.
The gore in Slither is just kind of like, it's just a bit like, that looks disgusting. That's revolting, and that's kind of it.
Yeah,
And
when someone dies because they're basically dead anyway, like possessed by an alien, you don't really care as much as well.
yeah, it's a bit like, all right, like, yeah, I think my vote probably is for Super, but I just realized as well, when we spoke about story, I can't even let it slide that in Slither, that girl, when she has like the slug like going down her throat, she's
Oh
able to
God,
like envision the origin story of this like slug.
it's quite cool actually. Yeah, I forgot about
I hated it. Is it because like I didn't understand what I was seeing when they were showing us it because it was just like a foggy terrain.
that. Yeah,
Like,
and
this
you're also
thing
looking at through like fly eyes. What's they called when there's like those are like triangles on the screen, whatever it's called. You know
I don't know, you frozen.
oh right. You know when you look through like fly's eyes and or, like wasp eyes or something,
Yeah.
there's like 20 of everything. It's kind of like that as well, and it's quite weird. Like it was kind of hard to grasp what was going on in that.
Then, to make it even worse, they had to have that scene in the car where she was like, "I saw everything. I know where he's from." And then she points to the like the sky, but she's in the car, so that's stupid.
Yeah,
And then he's a Martian. I was like, "Fucking hell!" Like,
yeah, that was kind of weird. I feel, yeah, I get what you mean. That's all right. We picked Silver for story actually. That won that category.
yeah, I completely forgot about it. I was like,
Oh God,
what?
now I've
But
questioned all of everything we've done.
yeah. Well, this was never just us two. We need to get the others
Yeah,
back.
but sorry about this, Leon.
Oh yeah, and
Um,
Maeve. Maeve's in Wales. No, not Wales. Scotland.
Where's Mac? Yeah, he's in Scotland. Oh yeah, I think me and Leon mentioned that before. Yeah, I don't know. We yeah. I say this is really weird because me and Leon yesterday recorded like the rest of the podcast. So it's like some Inception shit going on. This is a dream inside of a dream, except it's just the day after the next, so it's not really a dream inside of a dream. Uh, so we're going with Super for the gore category.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, so Super wins 3-2, and
I agree with that. I think yeah.
yeah, they're pretty good. You can kind of tell these are his first two films. Although they are good though. He's like you haven't seen Suicide Squad yet, have you?
Nah, I've not seen.
should
I've
say
not even seen the
the
original
Suicide
Suicide Squad either.
Don't bother watching that. This shit. The Suicide Squad. It's really good, and you can kind of yeah, you can see how kind of I think the Suicide Squad is more like Super than Guardians is just because it's a 15 for starters. I think when you make a Marvel film, they well apart from like Logan and Deadpool and stuff, but MCU films they don't give you as much kind of scope or freedom to do what you want. But I think he gets a lot of freedom with this, and like as he did with Super because that's his own film. And he kind of shows how he's like kind of grown as a director since Super. Yeah, and I think that's why I liked watching Super as well because it did remind you of the kind of Guardians and whatnot. So yeah, I think it winning 3-2 is fair.
Yeah, it's fine with me. Yeah, the other two can't have an opinion anyway, so that's fine.
Well, yeah, exactly. They might disagree, but I don't think like Leon hadn't watched them. Neither of them have watched the films.
Because
Yeah, Matty should watch Super. Matty would like Super.
yeah, definitely.
All right, so I suppose back to me and Leon. The what are we doing next? We played Tenable. No, we haven't played it yet. We're about to play a game.
You're about to, and I'm gonna go now because I haven't seen the film. So yeah, I'll pass over.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, go. You're gonna go watch Suicide Squad. Sweet.
All right. It's now
All right, then.
Leon back here after that riveting discussion about two of James Gunn's earlier films. And now we're going to play a game, or Ross is going to make me play a game. As we switch roles, Ross has brought his inventive game to the table today, and we're gonna see what he's got. What's going on, Ross?
So, I know you haven't, but if anyone listening has seen the TV show Tenable before, it's kind of just guessing top tens. So, you know, for example, the top 10 grossing Leonardo DiCaprio films or something, and you just got to guess the 10. And so today I've made up my own one, or well, I've researched it and stuff to make sure it's all Correct. But Leon, you'll be guessing the top 10 actors to win. Sorry, no, the 10 most recent. I fucked it up already. The 10 most recent actors and actresses who have won their second or third Oscar. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, who's most recently won their second and third Oscar?
Yeah. That makes sense.
All right. And I'll tell you, like, within the top 10, which number they are. So you can kind
So
of,
number 1 would be the most recent.
yeah, and then number 10 will be,
Yeah.
well, you'll hear the year when and you'll be able to work it out from there. Or
Oh, so you're
the
gonna tell me
film.
this? Oh, so you tell me clues.
Well, I'll tell you who it is, and then I don't know. You can try and guess what film it is if you don't. Well,
Wait,
you
what?
probably
Wait,
have to
what?
guess
Wait,
what film.
what? I
I
thought
won't
was
give you
get-
any clues.
So I'm just guessing straight up.
Yeah, it's a guess. But then if it say like you say someone and they're eighth, you can then work out who like goes around them and goes near them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
So you can't like guess someone from like the 1990s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
So
I guess started then.
am I starting to guess?
Yeah, go now.
So number 1 would be Frances McDormand.
Well, yeah, she's second.
She's
But-
second. Well, it's just actors, isn't it? Yeah.
Actors and actresses, yeah.
Yeah. Any of the acting categories. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah. So yeah, she's
second.
second. She won her third.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that means if she's second, that means someone else won their second or third at the Oscars this year. And
Yeah.
the people who won were best actor, best supporting actor was Daniel Kaluuya, so it's not that. Best supporting actress was I can't remember any of the films that came out. Oh my days. Best supporting actress. We were watching it. Oh, Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, Anthony Hopkins is first.
How could I
He won
forget?
his second for The Father. Obviously, he won his first like
Yeah.
20 odd years ago, 30 odd years ago for Silence of the Lambs.
For best actor, even though
Yeah.
he definitely should have won for supporting. That made no sense.
Yeah,
Best
didn't he
actor
have
for
like
Silence.
14 minutes of screen time or something
Yeah,
like that?
something like that. That was a weird decision.
Yeah. Right, so you've got the top two.
So Renee Zellweger.
Yeah, for Judy the year before, so she's third.
Christoph Waltz, is he on there?
Yeah, Christoph Waltz, so he won his second for Django in 2013, so he's seventh on the list.
7th. Okay, I'm not even going to try to think of films now. I'm just going to try to think actors. I feel like that'll be easier. Think of actors of this decade or the last 2 decades. Who are the most popular actors? DiCaprio only has 1. Actors. It's actually, my mind is actually going blank now. It's annoying.
So Christoph Waltz is seventh. The people in sixth and eighth, that's both their third Oscars.
Meryl Streep, is she on there?
Yeah, so she's eighth. She won in 2012 for The Iron Lady.
Yeah. Should have guessed that sooner. Mahershala Ali.
He's fourth, so he
Yeah.
won his second for Green Book in 2019. Obviously, he won his first for Moonlight.
Yeah. It's always like
Bit kind of bullshit that he won supporting actor for Green Book.
yeah, that was unfair.
But yeah, but we move. Mahershala Ali was fourth. Christoph Waltz is seventh. So you're looking between 2013 and 2019 now for fifth and sixth.
Oh my days. The IMDb like page where it shows their Oscar nominations. This is like flashing through my head and not landing
Yeah.
on anyone right now. In my head right
so
now.
many people have like like loads of nominations, but so many have actually won.
Yeah. Like Glenn Close.
Yeah.
2 Oscars. Who else has won 2 more Oscars?
Remember the person in sixth has won 3.
Someone's won 3 Oscars this decade, and it's not Meryl Streep or who else is old and like maybe won 2 back in the day and then came through and won another.
We watched one of the films quite recently on the podcast that he's in, that he won for.
What?
Think about when we reformed the podcast.
Even now, I can't even remember that now because my mind is just annoyed. So I can't even register recent memories right now. We reformed the podcast and I can't even
No,
remember.
sorry, it's the second week, I think.
I can't even remember. I can remember the last week.
The first week was drumming movies.
And then
So I
it
think
was
the week after that.
Oh my god. Oh, Daniel Day-Lewis, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, so he won in 2013 for Lincoln. That was his third.
For fuck's sake. It's not the most obvious one.
Yeah, so that was his third in 2013 for Lincoln. So you've got first Anthony Hopkins, second Francis McDormand, third Renee Zellweger, not Zenny Radwiger, fourth Mahershala Ali, sixth Daniel Day-Lewis, seventh Christoph Waltz, eighth Meryl Streep. So you've got 5, 9, and 10 to look for now.
So 9 and 10. So we go back before. I'm gonna go back before Christoph Waltz right now. Do we go back into the 90s? Like someone won?
No.
Okay, so they all won. Their second or third came in the 2000s then.
Yeah.
I can't work out what strategy I want to do with. I just want to go through each year and try to think, and then that becomes even more painful when I can't figure it out. Then I'm like, oh, should I just try to think of actors? But then I forgot Meryl Streep and Daniel Day-Lewis. So that strategy is not working out too well either. The 2000s.
I think both of them won both their Oscars in between 00 and 09.
It's definitely like someone who won like supporting twice.
No, they're both best actor and
Really?
or best actress. Well, there's one of each, best actor and best actress. They won.
They won leading both times.
Yeah, both of them.
Oh, my dick. So that means it's definitely obvious then. For fuck's sake. Okay. 2 leading roles and they won.
I don't think it's that obvious actually.
Nah,
But,
it'll be obvious
yeah,
when I hear it. It'll be obvious to me. I'll know. Like,
yeah, I guess so.
I'll be able.
If
If you said the name to me, I'd know. Okay, they've won these Oscars, and I probably know what they won it for as well. But now trying to think of these 2 probably A-listers it's not going well. 2000s won 2 leading Academy Awards.
We've done one of the films on the podcast before, but that's like over 100 films we've done. So, but I should narrow it down a little bit, I guess.
Jodie Foster? No. That's too far ago. Too long ago.
Think of when we did Sports Week on the podcast.
When we did Moneyball, Mickey Rourke and the Wrestler, Warrior. It's none of them.
That other film.
Other sports film. Tell me no, actually don't tell. Yeah, it might get to a point where you need to tell me the sport, but not yet.
It's
not
boxing.
Yet.
Oh no, not yet. Oh shit. Well,
Oh well.
You've heard
boxing.
it now.
Boxing. So it was.
Still doesn't help.
Boxing. We had that Raging Bull or Rocky. $1 Million Baby. Yeah. Hold on. Morgan Freeman has 2, does he? Oh no, Hilary Swank.
Hilary Swank.
Oh,
yeah,
days.
there we go. She won for
Okay,
$1 Million Baby. That was the second.
To be fair, for people who've won Best Actress twice, that is very like almost obscure because she's basically done.
Yeah.
She did those 2 films. She's basically done nothing else worthwhile in her career.
Yeah, she won for Boys Don't Cry in 2000.
Yeah.
The $1 Million Baby in 2005 was her second, and that's number 10. So you're looking for number 5 and number 9 now on the list. So number 9 you might be able to get is it's in the 2000s and it's after 2005. So
Yeah.
That narrows it down a bit for you. Are you ready for a clue?
Yeah, go on.
What am I holding?
A pen. What? I have no idea what that means.
That can be more obvious.
What? What? Who has a pen?
No, think more obvious. It's not someone who has a pen.
Someone's Sean Penn.
Yeah. So he won for Milk in 2009. That's just
Yeah.
his second.
Yeah.
And then his first.
Mystic River.
Yeah. So you've got everyone apart from who's in 5th place, who's actually is quite I'll say it's a she. So
Is
it's
that-
between
Is that Best Actress twice?
She won supporting once and Best Actress once.
Okay.
So it's between Daniel Day-Lewis in 2013 and Mahershala Ali in 2019.
Okay. An actress. She won Best Supporting. When did
So
she win? When did she win her first Oscar?
She won her first Oscar in 2005, which was the supporting one.
Okay. Okay. That should be obvious, but it's not. 2005, 2004 films. Can you hear those seagulls mocking me?
Yeah, they're laughing at you. They're screaming the answer to you. Need a clue?
There you go.
Good day, mate.
So an Australian actress.
Yeah.
Australian actress. It's not Nicole Kidman.
The film she won her first Oscar for has Leonardo DiCaprio in it.
Oh, Kate Blanchett. Fuck's sake.
Kate Blanchett, yeah, for Blue Jasmine in 2014.
Oh my days. That was
Yeah, you got all of
painful.
them.
That's painful. How many did I get?
Hard, actually.
The ones I got with little help was probably like 5 or 4.
Yeah, you got Anthony Hopkins and Frances McDormand pretty quick, obviously. You got Christoph Waltz pretty quick, Renee Zellweger,
Yeah.
and Mahershala Ali.
Okay. Here we are for the main review of The Suicide Squad, not to be confused with Suicide Squad. The Suicide Squad, which just came out in cinemas over the weekend. So, The Suicide Squad, 5 years after the commercial. Is it the weird thing about this? Yeah, is that Suicide Squad still made a lot of money, the first one, but
Yeah,
they still recognized how terrible it was, and were like, okay, we need to reboot this. We don't want this to be like canon within the DC EU. So they've made the decision to go again with a new director, new direction, and obviously we had the Snyder cut this year. There's also talk about the Ayer cut, David Ayer, who directed the first Suicide Squad, but he complained about like studio interfering with that film, and that's kind of why it ended up being as trash as it was. But there's no issue with that here. They've given James Gunn the freedom to do whatever the fuck he wants with this film, and it shows. And yeah, this was just a good time. It just moved along nicely. I really enjoyed the visual style, some good action in there, some good humor, some gory violence. Just James Gunn in all of his glory, some good needle drops as well. Yeah, Ross, what did you think of The Suicide Squad?
yeah, I loved it actually. It's probably the best superhero film I've seen since Endgame. I mean, or probably since Infinity War. Actually, I've probably enjoyed it more than Endgame. Yeah, I mean, James Gunn, just like kind of watching his other films this week, you can see how he's grown as a director, and it's come to this. And I watched an interview and he was saying this is like his favorite, his biggest project so far. And yeah, and like the John Cena went on with him to Jimmy Kimmel, like dressed up as his character. So like you can see how much they're like the actors enjoyed doing the roles and stuff, and all the actors were good as well. Like I think in the first Suicide Squad, Harley Quinn was like at the forefront, and in this one, she kind of takes more of a back seat, which I think works well because it's kind of got Idris Elba and stuff as like the mains, and because he's more normal, it weighs out kind of the other characters. But yeah, you can just see this is James Gunn all over, and he's done whatever the fuck he wants on it, and you know, it's like if he made Guardians but made it kind of was able to make it a 15 and make it more gory and put the James Gunn kind of stamp on it. This is it, and it's worked so well. And this is what happens when you give directors freedom.
Yeah, I think Harley Quinn was probably the only good thing about that first film, and she obviously like and she extrapolated that into Birds of Prey as well. Which I didn't really like that either, but you can still see her like star power, Margot Robbie's star power, and she brings that here. But yeah, they get a whole range of intriguing, cool characters in this one. All the actors bring it. I think they bring like a movie star quality. They all deliver on the humor when they need to. It all just meshed together really well, and I really like what he did, like with some of the like the structural choices, like starting the movie with was Michael Rooker, his character in that cell or whatever, and then being released, and you think you're on a journey with one. So because I didn't really know who exactly was in this film, so I knew like Will Smith wasn't going to come back. I knew like it just like they checked if it's a different. I don't know if it's a different comic book character, because obviously so it's Deadshot in the first one. He's called Idris Elba's character is called Bloodsport. I don't know if they just changed the name to like not make it linked to Will Smith, or because they still have like a similar like story in terms of his daughter and everything. But I don't know if if they've just found a new comic book character within the DC world to bring in. But yeah, whatever. Idris Elba comes in, and so I didn't know the full cast list. So when it starts and this you still got Harley Quinn in there. So I'm like, okay, so this is the main group of characters. What's going on? You got them. Rick Flag. Is his name Rick Flag?
Yeah, Rick Flag.
Yeah, Rick Flag. He's still in there. And then you've got Pete Davidson.
I thought
I didn't know.
The main.
Yeah, I didn't know he was in this. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, good for him. So he had his own like starring comedy film last year with the King of Staten Island. Now he's going to be in the Suicide Squad. Mad. And then obviously Michael Rooker. Who else is in that little squad? Go no. There was anyone famous? Was there another famous face in there? I can't remember.
I feel like there was. I can't remember.
But yeah, I was like, oh, this is going to be the crew going in, and Weasel as well, and then Weasel's
so funny.
Yeah, Weasel's quickly out of there, and they're storming the beach. Pete Davidson sacrifices the team, or rats them out basically. They all get taken out. It's like, oh, that's not how I expected. And then switches over to another side of the beach where Idris Elba and John Cena and all the gang are there. And then go back. Let's find out how they got to this point, how they were recruited, and all of that stuff. So all just those little like flourishes that he puts in there, I thought just really, really works for me. Is that something you enjoyed about it?
Yeah, it's amazing. And I think it's like the dynamic between the characters, even that like first group that's on the screen. We should probably put a spoiler warning at the start there. So even that first group that's on the screen for the first like 20 minutes, they all kind of work together and mesh together so well, which makes it a really enjoyable watch. And obviously, you're like, what the fuck? They've all just died straight away. Like, obviously, apart from like Harley and Rick, because they can't kill them off. Well, maybe they did later on. But like how it kind of misleads you in a way, but like a good way, and then puts you on the course for the other characters coming in as like the kind of that's the A squad, that's the A team on the actual mission. He did that really well, and kind of because what I think the first Suicide Squad, they did like a little introduction to each character, which was kind of cheating in a way, because it was like I could see what they're trying to do, but it's also like that's just like an escape to actually introduce characters properly. Whereas this one, they just threw them in, and over time they develop the characters properly, which is why I think it works so much better. And the character dynamic works a lot better in this film as well. And I think just with kind of James Gunn's way of kind of writing films and whatnot, that they bounce off each other so well, knows how to use that comedy so well. So yeah, it's really, really like kind of enjoyable over the first one, because the first one I think takes itself tries to take itself quite seriously with comedy. This one doesn't. Like James Gunn said, he just tried to get like he just found like the dumbest superheroes he could, like Polka Dot Man and like the shark and whatnot, and threw that in there. But also he there's some like it's just funny like watching the shark, like because he's just like a powerhouse, just like smashing through stuff, but he's quite like cute as well, so it's funny. And then like yeah, stuff like that. And the little rats are quite like that's such a like a weird power you even think of, like, because you can control rats, but literally like saves the day at the end, and it meshes together really nicely.
Yeah, like because like I'm not like a comic book guy or anything, but like DC is meant to be the more darker universe compared to Marvel. But I don't know what the secret is to making that work. Because ultimately, this just dumb. It's superheroes. Like it's hard to strike like a level of like realism. But like it works in like Batman's world, or not even mainly just the Dark Knight. Really, it really works. That intense, that psychological element, that psychological battle going on there. You can really feel the dark themes. But he's trying to do it in something like Suicide Squad, like the first film tried to be. Yeah, it just gets really dour and uninspiring. Like there was hardly any kind of levity in that film. Like who had any funny lines in the first film? I don't even know. Like did Will Smith he had like a few like kind of cool movie star lines, but never like outright comedy. And this film is still like dark in terms of the violence, but having a more funny tone and a funny vibe throughout. That's just what you need to do with these superhero films. Everything just flowed better, I thought, in this film, in part to the comedy, just part because it just felt more fresh and inventive. Did you enjoy that plot with the American government? They taken the starfish and experiment on it, and then as soon as they experiment, they do all the experiments in this little third world country, and then when that leader is dead and they've been overtaken, it's like, oh yeah, we're done with you now. We don't need you anymore. We're just gonna kill you lot. Get rid of all the evidence that we were ever doing experiments in here. Cover it all up. I thought that was a interesting way to go, a bit of a political way to go for James Gunn in this film.
I think they did that quite well because obviously sending off the Suicide Squad to do this, they don't really know why they're doing it, but they're doing it just because they have to. But then like having that kind of John Cena's character, having Peacemaker, having that extra kind of mission to make sure the hard drive and stuff doesn't get out and whatnot, it all adds up really nicely. And I think if they would have just got there and blown up the building, it wouldn't have been as satisfying. But having that kind of bit where John Cena has to stop the other characters getting out, getting the secret out and whatnot, and then having to battle the starfish at the end when it does get out, it kind of gives you a way more satisfying ending than if they just blow up the building and happy ever after. And I don't know whether this is like a comic book story that they've put into a film, or they've kind of. I think a lot of times, sometimes they get random comic book stories and they kind of merge it into one film, and that's probably what they've done here. But I think the way he has done that works really well, because when the starfish is like in the tub or whatever the big bath it's in, whatever you want to call it, and all the people have like the starfishes on their face, they look quite fun. Like it looks quite serious. When the starfish gets out, it looks quite funny, and I think he really nicely, like, just throughout the film, just like strikes the chord of getting that kind of funny, serious tone out. And yeah, as I said, and all the cat like having good actors like Idris Elba and stuff to kind of react from it. It works really, really nicely, and kind of yeah, it's a kind of I just really enjoyed it thoroughly. And I think the side thing of the polka dot man always seeing his mum, that was one of the funniest bits of the whole film.
Yeah.
And when the starfish turns into his mum, like huge, it's so funny. And yeah, it's just making comment, like it's a massive starfish anyway, like destroying a city, like an old King Kong movie or something, and then like Godzilla movie or something, and then like just adding that on top of it to make it even funnier. And I think earlier on in the film, when he's like, I see him, he's like, where's your mum now? He's like, everywhere, and all their faces are just his mum. It's so funny. Yeah.
There was one bit I didn't realize. I can't remember what the context was. There was one scene where all the faces had been replaced with his mum, and it took me like a few seconds to realize what had happened. That must have been the first time they made all the faces his mum. So I was kind of looking like, what's going on? Why do they all look kind of similar? Oh, it's his mum. Yeah, I thought that as like a running joke. Yeah, I thought that was really effective. Another bit I really liked was the So when Idris Elba and John Cena first meet, when they go up to his cell to recruit him onto this job, and they're talking about well, what are they trying to? I think they're just arguing who's like the most deadly.
Yeah.
No, because Idris Elba basically when is it Viola Davis at that point? Was it Rick Flag who's like listing the like abilities of the characters? Whoever it is, they like list what John Cena is capable of doing, and Idris Elba's kind of like, oh, that's literally the same as me, and he's like, yeah, but I'm better. What? How can you be better? And it's like smaller bullets or something like that. And then you get that payoff
at the end
later in the film. That's a really sick visual moment with the bullet going right through it and taking him out.
And like when you're seeing it, you're like, smaller bullets.
Yeah. Smaller bullet. Does he mention it? I can't remember if Idris Elba mentions it. Like, yeah, smaller bullets.
Afterwards.
Does he say something?
Yeah, I think he says it to the rat girl. I think afterwards.
Smaller bullets, mate. Yeah, I haven't really seen Idris Elba like do much. I haven't watched any of his TV show. Like Luther is like his big one. He had that scene with his. They flip it with the scene with his daughter. Like in the first Suicide Squad, it's very like sad. I don't even remember what that daughter looks like. She's not very interested. She's like, oh yeah, he loves his daughter.
She's much younger, I think, as well.
Yeah, he loves his daughter. Thanks, cool. I've seen that in many movies. I don't really care, to be honest. Here, it's like, they're just swearing at each other. He doesn't really like her. He's kind of an inconvenience on his life, and they just air those feelings out. And then, despite doing that, you still feel the emotion at the end when she sees him on TV saving the world or killing the starfish, and she's like, "That's my dad." You still get the emotional payoff, despite not having that like cheesy, cliche, sentimental scene of them two. Like it could have been very like sad and would have been like emotional at the start between them two, like mourning, not being able to spend time with each other, but you still get that. So I thought that was another thing that worked well. Over like, another part of the first film that you can say, oh yeah, they improved upon that. You thought that was another effective part of the film.
Yeah, and I think like watching Slither and Super this week as well, just like it's kind of a theme throughout James Gunn films and probably Guardians as well. Like he manages so well to get those kind of feelings across and the emotions across of like characters connecting, whether they're a couple, whether it's father and daughter, whether like Rocket or whatnot, without being like soppy. And he does that really nicely, like through comedy as well, kind of making it funny, making their relationship funny. And then because you're kind of connected to these two in a funny way, in like a way you've laughed with them, now you're sad for them when something happens and you're happy for them when something happens. And yeah, her going like, that's my dad at the end. In like any other film, that will probably be like really cringy. Someone going, that's my dad. But I didn't like think of that. Well, just because all their other interactions before had been like funny and kind of, you know, like without saying it, like, because when I watch Old, like there's so much, when you watch it, you'll notice there's so much like exposition in that film. It's ridiculous. But with this, James Gunn's like just like a master at doing kind of visual storytelling without like telling you what it is. Like with that, it's, or like just kind of putting without like exposition, you just know that like she hates him, she's not proud of him, she hates, like she says it to him, but in like a way where she's screaming at him. So when at the end she's like proud of him, all she has to say is that's my dad, and you know she's proud of him. And yeah, he's so James Gunn, yeah, a lot of compliments like throughout this, but he's so good at doing that.
Yeah, I'm more excited for. Actually, I say I'm even more excited for Guardians 3. They're probably my like favorite films within the MCU, like as a whole. If I wanted to rewatch the MCU films, I'd plan to Guardians. But then at the same time, it's obviously it's a Disney film, so you can't be as intense and violent as he can be here. It'll still be good. I still like the Guardians films, and then a lot of that has to do with the soundtrack as well, kind of introducing me to songs I hadn't heard before into a superhero setting. It's like a cool part of that first film and the second one as well. So you probably still get that in the third one. But yeah, it won't be as, you won't get moments like my favorite. I think maybe my favorite bit in this film is I love the way the film looks the whole way through. It's just a really cool. I don't even have to describe it. Cool sheen on the screen throughout. But that's the sequence where it's when they're first approaching the building where the starfish is, and it's like there's loads of smoke. Is it smoke? I think there's loads of smoke going on. And no, it starts raining.
Oh,
It's very
like
cloudy.
fog, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of misty, and then that's when they have like a bit of a shootout, or like launching arrows at the guards, and then the blood's kind of splattering in the air through the mist and the rain. That is really good from a color perspective. That is really cool. I watched a Kurosawa film called Ran. It was like really good. One of those. I'm working through a lot of his films. Like obviously one of the best directors ever. Trying to work through a lot of his films. I watched that one. That came out in the 80s, I think. And there's one like kind of battle sequence in that, which is unlike anything I'd ever seen, where it kind of there's no you don't hear any of the action. It's kind of silent, and he communicates everything through color and the like visual aspect of the blood flying through the air through all this smoke and gunfire and everything like that. So that kind of reminded me of that sequence here in Suicide Squad. So yeah, really enjoyed that bit. But yeah, did you enjoy the visual style of this film? That's one of the things we do on the categories and the head-to-head bit. But if we were putting this up against a lot of films, this would take it for the visual style. It's a very cool look.
Yeah, because I think he keeps it's kind of like still like comic booky the way it looks. It's kind of it's as if you put like a glossy sheen effect over like the scenes that are brown, like when they're in the building and stuff, they're kind of orangey colors. They look like that, and when they're outside, it's a lot brighter. And like when they're in the kind of bar earlier on, it's quite like dark, and a lot of colors like pop as well. Like you say, the blood like splatting out and stuff. It looks like a comic book, and I think a lot of Marvel films don't hit that tone, keeping their kind of comic book roots, but this one does really well. And I think a lot of kind of superhero films, they try and be really cinematic and stuff now, but this one keeps really well to like the comic book feel of it, and I think what adds to that as well is these kind of ridiculous characters like Polka Dot Man. He's just got like yellow and blue and purple, whatever polka dots all over him, and it looks like he's a comic character. And like John Cena's outfit just looks like something straight out of a comic book, and that kind of adds to the visual style of it all because he's wearing this like bright red suit and stuff as well.
Any other characters we ever mentioned that stood out to you? I like the she Russian? No, she's Polish. She's just French.
Rat lady.
The rat lady, yeah. Where because she obviously Taika Waititi plays her dad in this film. I can't remember what country they're in or what city they're in.
Yeah.
They're sitting towards the end when they're sitting on the tower. I like the idea as well, like the idea that rats are like the least. I can't remember what the quote was. It's like, yeah, rats are the least cherished things in the world. So if even they can have like some kind of hope and purpose, then anyone can. I thought that was
I like that.
That was a nice sentiment. Nice added a layer to her relationship with the rats. It looked cool as well when the rats invaded the starfish, trying to take him down. Oh yeah, I thought she was a good character. Nice emotional depth to her as well.
I also want to give Weasel a shout out because that was like just from like the first minute, it was hilarious because what the hell was that? Yeah, and
who was sitting next to him and was like, "I gave him away. It's a werewolf." Was like someone, I can't remember. Was it Boomerang who was sitting next to him? I can't remember. I think it was Pete. Was it Pete Davidson actually?
Yeah, it's one of them too because they were both in. It's funny.
What is that? It's a werewolf. That's a werewolf. Yeah, Weasel, his eyes. Yeah, it was really funny. And it's like, and then Rick Flag comes in. It's like he's harmless. He's fine. Well, he's not harmless. He killed 28 children, but yeah.
It's funny. Oh, you know what? Viola Davis is so scary. After watching like this and Ma Rainey, she's terrifying. Yeah, even like
you should watch Widow. You should watch Widows as well.
She's scary in that.
Another good Viola Davis role. Love her. She's just one of the most powerful movie stars, I think.
Yeah, like so commanding.
She's like proper commanding in every performance she does. Yeah, I was impressed by her. Also, that bit with that bit where it just becomes like a different movie for a second with Margot Robbie and the president of the place or whatever.
Oh,
and he like
bit.
Proposes, and
they
have sex, and then he starts talking about like what does he say that like what does he say? I can't remember his like
I can't
impassioned
remember, but-
speech, his evil impassioned speech, like killing people or taking over or something like that. It's like along those lines. She's like, oh no, yeah. I have a bad taste in men, so I need to pick up on these red flags, and killing kids is probably a red flag. So sorry. Yeah, that was for like 5 minutes. It becomes like a different film. It's like, what is going on? Is she
Yeah.
just going to be like by his side now? Like, is that what? And they're
Yeah.
going to convince? I don't know. Yeah,
I think this is they use Harley really well in this film actually, because like with that bit with like the romantic scene, and then
her like
her suddenly kidnapping
her and
then
her
when
like
she escapes all the flowers coming out.
yeah,
and stuff.
yeah, that bit,
Yeah. And then the kind of it's like her messed up mind like on the screen, I think. And that, yeah, they do really well at kind of using Harley and making her kind of, because you know she's fucked up, but like when then she comes out and she's like, "You were gonna save me," and she gets really sad. It's really funny.
I really enjoy that as well in any film where it's like a team of people preparing to like do something, and then it's like really abruptly stops because someone comes out. It's like, "What are you doing? I'm here." Like they're trying to rescue. It's like, "What are you doing? We were saving you." Whenever I can't think of another example. Whenever that happens, like it's just like really like intricate, like the really dramatic, intense music. Yeah, get here. You go there. You go there, and then it's like, "Oh, guys, I'm right here."
Yeah, it's funny. I like that.
That worked. Anything else on the Suicide Squad?
That's it, really.
It's a really solid superhero action film. It's just I want to watch the. I haven't watched I haven't rewatched the film in cinema yet with this Odeon card. But I think if there was going to be one, it would be this one.
Yeah, I was saying that to the only other day that if there's nothing to watch and we want to go back and watch Suicide Squad again.
Yeah, because this is everything just flowed nicely. There's a terrific blend of action, humor, gore, violence, everything you need from a DC superhero film. So yeah, maybe DC just needs to employ James Gunn to do all their films, and their universe will stand up better. But yeah, okay. So this weird, unstructured episode of the Corona Cinema podcast is now at an end with the head-to-head not even recorded yet, but that means nothing to you people listening because it's going to be recorded tomorrow and then edited in before this bit. So yeah, at Corona Cinema on Instagram, at LeonWait98 on Twitter, Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, Stitcher, Podbean is where you can find the show. Next week is video game movies because Free Guy, the Ryan Reynolds film, is coming out. And I always say next week when it's every 2 weeks, but I can never stop myself. Next time on the Corona Cinema podcast, Free Guy, as this fucked out. Next time on the Corona Cinema podcast, it's video game movies with the release of Free Guy in cinemas everywhere. So we're doing in the head-to-head, we're doing Wreck-It Ralph Ready Player One versus Wreck-It Ralph. There you go. Until then, go well.
Cheers.